Okay, so I know when we were last together, my understanding is that we have most things agreed to in this case. With the exception maybe of father's visitation. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So it just might save some time if you all want to outline just kind of what the what the dispute is or what the issue is about it. Just so I know, and then we'll take whatever testimony we need to take.
Yes, ma'am. Your Honor, the department's asking for dad's supervision once he is released from incarceration to be supervised. During the course of this case, dad did not work services. He has a long-standing history of drug use, and it would, from what we have seen and throughout our case, it would be in the best interest of the child for visitations to be supervised.
Okay, so that's the department's position, Ms. Lucero.
Your Honor, I've spoken to my client. Of course, he won't be out of jail till October. And so prior to the case starting with CPS, he did have ongoing contact with the child. And so his hope is that once he gets out, that he can provide a clean hair follicle to the mother and just begin his visits. And he understands that this court might order maybe supervised for a while to see how he does out here in the world and then take a clean hair follicle. But it's our understanding the department wants 6 months of supervised visits, which I believe would be, I guess it'd be on the mom to have to supervise. There hasn't been a discussion of what those supervised visits would look like. And so we're hopeful that you'll decide that he can just come out, provide a clean hair follicle to the mother and start his visits, because they were at standard possession order is in place from the prior order has standard possession for him. But if the court orders that it preferred for him to have some type of supervised visits until such, then provide a clean hair follicle, Your Honor, we're asking for, a maximum of 2 months of supervision.
Let me ask this. Was he exercising his full standard possession order previously? Does anybody know?
I know that, I believe in this one, Your Honor, his prior order, he had a, make sure I got it right on which case I'm looking at. Sorry, let me get to it real quick.
Well, man, Ms. Medina's
He had
here.
Medina's here, so.
Ms. Medina, was he exercising all of his possession rights?
We didn't really go by the court order. He just got him when I needed his help or whenever he had time for him mostly.
You all just worked
Like
it out.
he kind of, because I was working 2 to 10 at night, and he kind of just got him during that time, and I would have him on my days off mostly. But
Okay.
I always made sure that he had him at his mom's house. Because he used to always use my car, so I always made sure that he was at his mom's house with my kids, because he used to get all my kids babysit them while I worked.
Excuse me.
And
You all are just doing this by agreement between the two of you.
Yeah.
And did he agree that those visits would always take place at his mother's house?
Yeah.
He didn't have a problem.
Well, I talked to him yesterday, and he said that he would want me to do the visits with with Ezra.
Mr. Martinez told you he wanted you to supervise the visits?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, Your Honor, their prior order, he was supposed to have first, third, and fifth Saturdays from 6 p.m. Excuse me. First, third, and fifth Saturday from 6 p.m. till 6 p.m. on a Sunday. He was supposed to do 42 possessions that way and then go into a standard. According to them, I'm guessing they never did the 42. They just did it by agreement, from what Ms. Medina's saying. But again, he's got a long standing history of drug use, and so I don't believe the standard possession order at this time is in the child's best interest due to that long standing and his criminal history. I don't believe that he needs to be left unsupervised with the kid for any period of time, just due to that history.
And Your Honor, I would just add, as far as the long history, I mean, he did get in trouble back in, what, 2013, which was, you know, well, over 10 years ago. And then this recent case, yes, from 2024. So, like I said, you know, maybe, you know, 2 months of supervision and then provide a clean hair follicle, you know, but I think 6 months is excessive.
Well, so
I
I'm
think-
looking here, that their original orders were back in 2015, looks
Yes.
like. So between 2015 and whenever he went back to jail or we got involved, then same thing, I'm asking Ms. Medina, that whole time, I mean, we're talking, you know, 9 years virtually. Were the two of you just doing this visitation as you all
No,
agreed
when it
on?
first started, we were doing it how it was on paper when it first started. But
he
when he started using drugs and stuff, I only allowed him to see him like I would only allow him to see him if his mom picked him up and his mom bring him back to me. He wasn't allowed to leave his mom's house with him or anything.
Did he ever complete those original 42 visits?
No, not really.
Okay, well, we got a lot of water under the bridge since 2015, obviously.
Well, because I actually lived in California during some of that time too, and then he was locked up and stuff too. So
And
Of that 9 years, how long was he incarcerated?
in and out. Can't really tell you because my relationship with him really got good after I moved back this time.
Do you and he, I mean, you talked with him yesterday, are the two of you still on pretty good terms?
Yeah. But I've already explained to him too that once I see that he's back on drugs and stuff, because I know when he's on drugs that I wasn't gonna allow him to see him anymore.
Okay. All right, well, anybody feel like they need to put on some testimony?
Judge, I don't know that I necessarily need to put on the testimony. I do have the exhibits as far as his certified copies of his criminal history, not all of it, but his drug charges that stem for 11 years. Which Mr. Lucero alluded to just then. I mean, he's, 2013, he had a charge for cocaine. This past year, he's got a charge for methamphetamine. It hasn't gotten better. He's incarcerated now, waiting to go to TDCJ. And that's not all his criminal history throughout this time. That's just to show the drug history that we had.
Okay, so I had read something in the report that he was incarcerated with a possible release date of October of 2025. So is he?
He pled to a year on this most recent charge and has some time, but he is still supposed to be transferred to TDCJ, is my understanding, on this current charge.
Yes, Your Honor, his maximum date for those 12 months that he has already some time accumulated would be in October of this year.
So best case and or worst case, he's gonna be out in October.
Yes, ma'am.
Does everybody agree with that?
That's my understanding, Your Honor.
Is he gonna be on parole or is he done at that point in time?
He'd be done, Your Honor.
He'd be done. It was a 12-month sentence.
Okay, so we're not gonna have parole monitoring him at that point.
And
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, Judge, I guess I would ask for just short testimony from Ms. Hunter as far as kind of progress in the case and what happened in it.
Okay. All right. Ms. Hunter, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you'll give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hunter, would you state your name for the record?
Christina Hunter.
And Ms. Hunter, how are you employed?
I'm a permanency specialist for St. Francis Ministries.
And are you familiar with the case involving the child Ezra Martinez?
Yes, I am.
And how are you familiar with that case?
I am the primary caseworker on this case.
And you've heard the conversations we've been having today, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with or have had contact with the father of the child, Nicholas Martinez?
Yes, sir, I have.
And he is currently incarcerated.
Yes.
Okay. During the life of this case, did you generate or did y'all generate what is called a family plan service?
Yes, sir.
And were you ever able to go over a family plan with Dad?
Yes, sir.
Did he ever sign that family plan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was that filed with the court?
Yes, sir.
And were the family plans of service, were they made in order of the court?
Yes, sir, they were.
Do you still have what I sent out of exhibits?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you have exhibit number 10?
Just a second. Yes, sir.
And can you tell me what exhibit number 10 is?
It is the family plan of service for Mr. Martinez.
And is this the copy of the family plan that Mr. Martinez signed?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and when did he sign that?
It looks like August of 24.
And Dad understood what he was supposed to do.
Yes.
And these were filed in January of this year, is that correct?
Yes.
Copy. Is this copy, has it been altered in any type of way from when you originally had it?
No.
Yeah, I'd ask to admit exhibit number 10, the family plan that Ms. Hunter just testified to.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
All right, petitioner's exhibit 10 will be admitted.
Ms. Hunter, did Dad ever work any of his services?
Unfortunately, no.
Did he ever attempt to work any of his services?
He did engage in a couple of drug screens in the very beginning, but outside of that, no.
Was he asked to, outside of random drug screens in his service plan, was he asked to maintain a drug-free lifestyle?
Yes.
Did he do that?
No.
He's currently incarcerated for a drug charge, is that correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. Well, no, I'll withdraw my objection. I'll cover it during my question.
Okay.
Have you met with Dad while he's in jail?
Yes, I have.
Has he told you what he's incarcerated for?
He told me that he was picked up due to a parole violation as well as a drug charge.
And have you discussed with him whether he pled to the case or whether he's been sentenced?
We didn't really go too far into detail in regards to his criminal side. I asked, what his plan was whenever he was going to be getting released, those types of questions, just so that way I could be able to ensure that I was formulating a plan to help him be successful once he was out if we were still involved.
Your Honor, I'd ask to admit exhibits number 1 and number 2. They are the certified copies of the indictment and certified copy of the judgment on Mr. Martinez's current charge.
Any objection?
No objection.
No objection.
All right, petitioner's exhibits 1 and 2 will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did Dad ever state, did you ever discuss wanting to do any type of drug treatment or help with Dad's drug use?
Every time I spoke with him, we talked about his substance use, as that has been a huge contributing factor to him not having visitations with Ezra since the case began. We spoke about how his usage has impacted his ability to provide a stable environment as he was homeless. We spoke about how he's supposed to be setting the example for his son. He acknowledged that he understood those things and that he wanted to be the best parent he could. However, he also stated that he was not interested in getting any kind of drug treatment. He didn't feel that he needed it. And he stated that as soon as he got out, he was planning to possibly go live with his parents and just get a job.
And when did you have the conversation where he stated he didn't think he needed drug treatment?
Every month I've met with him.
Okay. When was the last time you had that conversation with him?
I believe it was in March.
Okay. And do you believe, based upon the fact Dad did not work services through this case and is currently incarcerated for drug charges, it is not in the child's best interest for Dad to have unsupervised visits going forward?
That is correct, as well as his continued history that he's had of repeat offending with drug charges as well. I don't feel that it would be in Ezra's best interest to be unsupervised with him until he is either able to sustain an extended period of time of sobriety and be able to prove that with like a clean hair follicle, as well as or completing some intensive treatment.
And you're not asking to change any of the prior orders. The only modification we're asking is on the that visits be supervised with Dad once he's released.
Yes.
Did y'all discuss this? Was this Dad's only charge? Did y'all discuss any other charges he had throughout our case?
We discussed his criminal history, just in a generic way of how he's had a lot of issues with drugs in the past and how he's had multiple charges for them.
Yeah, I'm gonna object to multiple charges. I don't believe that's a true statement.
Your Honor, I believe if that's what Dad told her.
Okay. Is that correct, Ms. Hunter?
He does have extensive charges, yes.
All right, I just want to make sure we understood your testimony correctly.
Is that what Dad told you, Ms. Hunter, is that he had multiple charges?
I had told him that I had reviewed his criminal history and I had seen that he had had multiple charges in the past involving drug charges, and he said, yes, I know. It's been an issue for some time.
Your
Overruled objection.
And Your Honor, I would ask to admit, and I don't know how you want me to go about it individually or not, but exhibits 3 through 9, they are exhibits, they're certified copies of Mr. Martinez's past criminal convictions. It's an indictment, order deferring, motions to proceed, orders from that motion to proceed, plea on community supervision, another motion to proceed, and an adjudication of guilt, all from the same case.
I'm fine if you want to just introduce them all.
I would ask to introduce them all, Your Honor.
And Your
Okay.
Honor, I would object just because they're over 10 years old and it happened prior to the child being born.
And Your Honor, that is the reason for entering these. His drug use and possessions have been going since before the child was born up until current state. I believe that goes to the weight of the evidence and to the reasoning for asking for supervised visitations if we've had a long-standing drug use history like this.
And Your Honor, my response to that would be that this case, it's the same case. And the documents that were provided, it's the same case where he was deferred and then they filed a revocation, but it wasn't the revocations were never based from what I saw in the documentation for continual drug use. I mean, yeah, he got in trouble. He didn't comply with, some of conditions probation, but I just keep hearing misstatements that it was continual drug use for those, 10 years. So that's my objection.
Was the
And-
underlying charge a drug charge?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Your Honor, it was.
Okay,
And
and we've had these new charges
yes, ma'am.
that were drug related.
Correct, Your Honor.
All right. It would, I mean, I think that alone supports that there's been continual drug use, so. What does not, the underlying indictment, I understand may be more than 10 years old, but when did the revocations come?
Up till, so the first case was filed, the original case was filed in 2013. He was finally adjudicated and sent to TDCJ in 2014. As part of one of his motion to revoke, Your Honor, he was sentenced also to ISF and then was revoked after that also. So even after being sentenced to ISF and extended on his probation, he was revoked and sent to prison.
And his, everything terminated, sometime in, well, let's see. He was adjudicated at the end of July of 2014. At that time, he was sent 9 months state jail, and wrapped up, I believe, at the end of 2014, early 2015.
All right, so whatever of those exhibits predates June 10th of 2014 will not come in. Anything that's after June 10th of 2014, because that's 10 years from when this case was filed, then I will admit. I don't have them pulled up in front of me, so
Yes, ma'am.
if those revocations came after June of 14, then they're admitted. If it was only one that is after that time.
It'll be, the only one that is after that time, Your Honor, is exhibit number 9, which is the judgment adjudicating guilt.
That came after June of 2014.
Yes, ma'am. That judgment was entered in July of 14.
Okay, the petitioner's exhibit 9 will be admitted.
And Ms. Hunter, you've been here through the beginning of this hearing since the case has been called, correct?
Yes,
And you heard Mom state earlier that she didn't let the child stay with him if she thought he was on drugs.
that is correct. Yes,
So Mom's aware that he also has a drug use problem.
yes,
Have you ever had that discussion with Mom?
yes.
Okay. And how did y'all's discussions go as far as that with Mom and Dad's drug use?
Mom has stated to me basically the similarities of what she stated earlier, that anytime he would have the kids, it would be underneath the supervision of his mom and dad. So the paternal grandparents, they would be over at their house, so that there was also another party that was there to ensure safety of all the kids. I know that they've always co-parented very well with one another. But I know Mom has also taken those extra steps to ensure that there was somebody else there, if he wasn't always 100% to be believed that he was drug-free.
So what the department's asking for today for the visitations to be supervised is not out of the norm from what they have been doing, from your understanding.
Correct.
And just due to Dad's history, do you believe that unless something changes with him, it could be in a, I'll back up. The concern is with Dad's past history and history of arrest, having the child with him unsupervised could present a danger for the child going forward.
Yes.
And again, that is the reasoning asking for supervised visits, not to cut off communication, with dad, but for protection of the child and best interest of the child, that his visits be supervised.
It's purely just for best interests. We've always wanted him to have communication with Ezra. That's the reason why I included to make, excuse me, let me rephrase myself, ensured to make sure that mom knew that communication could occur between Ezra and his father as long as it was supervised once he was returned home. Ezra does love his dad and his dad does love Ezra. But we just need to ensure those safeguards are there due to the continued usage that has occurred throughout this case.
And is it also concerning to you that dad has made statements to you that even with sitting in jail currently for a possession charge, that he does not need help with his drug use, substance abuse?
Yes, it is concerning.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, Ms. Sapien, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Lucero.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hunter, you stated you heard the mother, Ms. Medina, talk about how my client and she would work together, and if she didn't feel the child was safe, then she wouldn't leave the children, their child together, and I guess her 2 other children. Is that right?
I'm sorry?
Okay, you heard Ms. Medina say that Nicholas would watch not just their child together, but her other children, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and she also stated that if she didn't feel that he was in a position to watch the Ezra or her other children, that she wouldn't leave the children with him, correct?
Not alone, correct.
Right, and when this case first started, the children were, Ezra wasn't removed from Mr. Martinez, was he?
No,
Okay, so he wasn't the offending parent when this case started, right?
that is correct.
Okay, and I understand Ms. Medina's done well, and that's great, and her children are back with her, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and the department today is asking for y'all to dismiss out, and then the children are back home with Ms. Medina, but once my client gets out of jail, for him to have 6 months supervised visits, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so that responsibility would either land on Ms. Medina or land on, I guess, Mr. Martinez's mom?
What we had requested was that it be supervised by either Miss Medina or a party of her choosing.
Okay, and did y'all ever propose what type? I mean, I understand visitation, but just whenever? I mean, is it going to be like weekends? I mean, what type of visits did y'all propose, if any?
We didn't propose a specific schedule, just because of the simple fact is that the Mr. Martinez and Miss Medina do have a history of working well together in regards to determining that schedule for themselves. We were primarily concerned about the supervision piece because of the drug history and the continued usage.
Okay, and you keep saying continued usage. I see here, I guess he did test positive back in September of 2024, right?
Yes.
Okay, and he signed his service plan in, I guess, the end of what is it, August?
Yes.
Okay. So from that point forward, from September forward, we don't know if he still was using drugs, do we?
I did attempt to send him multiple times to go screen. However, he never completed. And so our policy is that a failed to complete a drug screen is considered a presumed positive.
Okay, well, I see that you sent him in October, on October 1st, 2024. Was that the last time you tried to send him? Because that's all I see in my report.
If you'll give me just a second, I can pull it up. So I asked for him to go last. Let me rephrase myself here. So he completed the hair follicle in September 16th of 2024. That was positive. In October, he did not submit, and then he became incarcerated in November. So I was not able to ask him to screen at that point.
Okay, so from November forward, we don't know. Well, he's been incarcerated, so we don't know if he's done any drugs in jail or anything like that, do we?
No.
Okay. Now, if you've heard us talk about that he will be out of jail by October of 2025, that'll be his maximum date. if he were to be able to get to the state jail facility and complete a program there, some type of drug treatment program, would that help alleviate y'all's concerns? Because I wanted him to do drug treatment out here. If he's able to do one there, wouldn't that serve the same purpose?
Your Honor, I believe I'd object to that. That's gonna be after this final hearing and after we're out of the case. What he does after we're out it does not bear on our decision today and what we are requesting today.
And Your Honor, I disagree with that because there could be, you know, how orders are, final orders are put in place. If he's able to complete a drug treatment program, present that to the mother, then, and take a clean hair follicle when he gets out, maybe that would also alleviate the mother's concerns and take care of what the issue that supposedly he said he didn't want drug treatment. I'm just trying to leave it in place, Your Honor, that there's a complete order of how these parties will proceed once CPS is out.
Yeah, and I understand what you're requesting. Okay, I'll take that under consideration.
All right, thank you. And just a couple more questions, Ms. Hunter. If once Nicholas gets out in October, and he's supervised for a couple of months by Miss Medina or somebody that she chooses, and he provides her with a clean hair follicle, that wouldn't be sufficient for y'all at this point?
I don't believe just a couple of months would, no.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Okay, and Ms. Zavala?
Ms. Hunter, a lot of this has been covered, but I'm looking at the last report, and right under where it talks about the drug screenings, there's a sentence that says he admitted active use up until his incarceration. When was that discussion?
That probably would have occurred whenever I first saw him, whenever he had gotten incarcerated over at Randall County.
And we've already discussed the September hair follicle that was positive for meth. In that discussion, what was it that he was saying he was using up until incarceration?
Methamphetamines.
So it's not just that he's been arrested. He actually said, yes, I was using all the way up until I was incarcerated.
Yes.
Okay. And if, in theory, when he gets out in October, if he went and took a hair follicle that day, it should be clean, right?
It should, yes.
Okay. So is it important to have a hair follicle at a time when he has been out and has had access to the same things he was doing before he was incarcerated?
Yes.
So a hair follicle immediately after being released really doesn't give us an indication as to, or give mom an indication as to where things are going.
No, ma'am. If I can put it frankly, we're not asking anything more of him than what we had asked of mom, of showing that long-term state of stability and sobriety. Whenever we were looking to reunify with her, we're just asking for the same thing for Mr. Martinez, for him to be able to show that he can maintain that long-term stable sobriety, to be able to have that unsupervised with his time with his son. And at that point, when he is able to show that, which generally in our favor, we usually ask for 6 months minimally, because that can show that stability and that behavior that has been able to be maintained.
I pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Trout, back to you.
Ms. Hunter, you stated to Ms. Zavala just then that when he was incarcerated in Randall County. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what he was in Randall County for?
I believe that's what where he was originally. He was in Randall County whenever he had got picked up. And so he was held there on some charges before he got moved over to Potter.
Okay. Do you know what the charges in Randall County were?
I think that was the drug possession that he was picked up on, if I can recall correctly.
You don't know if he had any other charges pending out of there?
Not that I can recall.
also a concern that dad over the years has continued to be involved in dangerous activity.
Your Honor, I object to leading.
All right, don't lead the witness.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Hunter, viewing dad's criminal record, does it appear to you that he is that he participates in dangerous activity?
Yes,
Is that dangerous to a young child?
yes,
Does Ezra have any special needs?
yes, he does.
And what are those?
He is considered high functioning autistic, and he also has ADHD.
Not that the conduct and the charges that Mr. Martinez has is dangerous to any child, but is it more so to a child with special needs, in your opinion?
For Ezra, it is due to the simple fact is that any child with autism, they strive, like I should say, thrive, not strive. They thrive with consistency and stability. Erraticness, inconsistencies with showing up for visits, those types of things that can have negative effects on them. And so just making sure that he is able to be that consistent, stable, and responsible role for him was what's best interest for Ezra.
And that is, again, just another reason we're asking for the supervised visits with that.
Yes,
And you are asking for those to be either monitored by mom or someone she designates.
yes.
I'll pass witness, Your Honor.
Okay, anybody have any further questions?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing further.
Nothing further.
All right. Anything further, Mr. Trout?
Nothing further, Your Honor. Again, we would only be asking to modify the visitation orders. Everything else, the child support, medical support, once he's out, would stay the same from the prior orders.
Okay. All right, Ms. Lucero, well, let me ask, this department rest.
Department rest, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Lucero, anything to present?
Yeah, I'd like to call Ms. Medina for a few questions, please.
Certainly. Ms. Medina, you'll unmute and raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you'll give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Okay, all right, you may proceed.
Ms. Medina, Ms. Hunter just mentioned that Ezra has been diagnosed with autism and ADHD, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and how long ago was he diagnosed with that?
Since I want to say 2021.
Okay, and from 2021, were you already back in the Amarillo area at that time?
Yeah, he got diagnosed out here.
Okay, all right then. And so even with that diagnosis, Mr. Martinez was able to care for him whenever you needed him or whenever y'all agreed for him to watch your child. I mean, watch Ezra, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any concerns with him taking care of Ezra, due to Ezra's diagnosis?
No.
Okay. And again, Mr. Martinez not only helped watch Ezra, or not even watch Ezra because that's his child, but he helped you with your other children. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I understand that, you did everything you needed to do to get your children back, and that's great. My question to you is, as far as, what the department's asking for, and after today, whatever the judge decides, they'll be dismissed out, and the children will be your responsibility going forward, and then Mr. Martinez's responsibility when he gets out of jail. Would you be comfortable if once he gets out of jail for him to be supervised for a couple of months, and then at that time, and he's out here in the free world, provide you with a hair follicle screen, and if that's clean for then for him to have unsupervised visits, would you be okay with that?
I think that the 6 months would be better because I mean that's my son's dad and I know how he is, and Nikki will stay clean for the 2 months that you're asking him to, and then go back to doing the same thing that he does. I've seen it all the time.
And when, and even though he had that, you're saying that ongoing issue, there were still times that he still watched all three of your children, correct?
Yeah, in the presence of his mom.
So you're in agreement with the department that he have 6 months of supervised visits and then provide you with a clean hair follicle and then go into unsupervised?
Your Honor, I'll object. We are not asked for 6 months of supervised. We asked for supervised visits. The
Oh,
the 6 month was an offer before we got into this hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry,
You're asking for
Daniel.
supervised.
I apologize. I thought it was 6 months. That's why I asked for this hearing.
From
Okay.
Nikki's understanding, it was 6 months too, and I talked to him yesterday. He said it was 6 months,
Okay.
and he was fine with it.
All right. I'll pass the witness.
You're muted, Judge.
Okay, Ms. Lucero, any other witnesses to call?
No, Your Honor, that's all I have.
All right, Ms. Zavala, any witnesses to call today?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay, and
Your Honor, I have a couple of follow-ups with Ms. Medina.
okay, go ahead.
Ms. Medina, you stated just then that you know how Nikki is. What do you mean by that?
Like Nikki will get out and stay clean for a couple months, but he always goes back to hanging out with the same people that he goes back doing his drugs with.
Your Honor, and I should have objected. I expected just object to speculation. I know she knows him, but we don't know what the future holds. Like we don't know what the future holds for Ms. Medina's behaviors.
And
Well, I think her testimony is really talking about is retrospective. I think she's really saying what he's always done in the past. So
yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna overrule the objection.
Ms. Medina, does your history with Nikki, does that concern you going forward?
What do you mean?
You stated that you know how he is. He hangs out with the same people. He always goes back to the drug crowd that he's always done drugs with. Does that concern you going forward?
Hanging out with the same people, yeah.
Okay. Do you have concerns that in 5, 6, 7 months, he gets out and goes back to the same thing?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Y'all had a prior possession order where if he did so many unsupervised overnight visits, he could go to a standard possession, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But y'all didn't follow that.
No.
Okay. And even during that, you required him to be supervised when he had the children.
Yeah.
Okay. And you understand that's what the department is asking for, is for him to be supervised once he gets out and can see his children.
Yeah, and I would feel more comfortable like that too.
Okay. So you would be in agreement with the department asking for visits to go to supervised visits, either by yourself or somebody you designate to supervise?
Yes.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for Ms. Medina?
No, Your Honor.
No
No,
further
Your Honor.
questions.
All right, one more shot at it. Anybody have any witnesses to call?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Ready, rest.
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 All right, Ms. Zavala, you have a recommendation to make?
Yes, Your Honor. I do not believe it's in Ezra's best interest for dad to simply go back to standard visitation when he's released. We've got admissions of use, positive drug screens, long history of abuse. So it is in Ezra's best interest that something's put into the order to help protect him from that going forward.
Okay. All right, then, at this time, then, I do find that it is in the best interest of Ezra Martinez to dismiss the Department of Family and Protective Services from this case. All court-appointed attorneys will also be dismissed from the case. I'm going to name the mother, Adriana Medina, as the child's sole managing conservator, And I will name the father, Nicholas Martinez, as a possessory conservator. All prior child support and medical support orders will go back into effect from the prior order of the court. We're going to modify the visitation to the following. If Mr. Martinez successfully completes drug treatment while he's incarcerated, I'm going to give mother the option to go straight to standard possession with father, or to follow this following step-up plan that I'm going to outline. You know, we're turning the child back over to mom, and that's by that doing that, we're saying we trust that mom's going to do what's in the best interest of the child, and that she's going to be protective of the child. So I'm going to give her the option to evaluate it at that point in time. But if mother wishes to not skip over, then father's going to have, he will have visitation with the child on the Saturday following the first and third Friday of each month. That will be supervised by mother or someone she designates. And that'll be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Or it can be on days and times that they mutually agree upon. So in other words, Ms. Medina, if those Saturdays from 9 to 1 don't work for you or for him, if you all can mutually agree to other days, you know, if you want to do it on a Sunday from 9 to 1, or from 10 to 2, or, you know, in other words, I'm going to give you the ability to adjust that if you need to. But if there's no agreement, then that's what it will be. I'm going to give Ms. Medina the right to request a UA drug screen every 30 days and a hair test every 90 days, and those will be at father's expense. All right, then if after 120 days, father has not had any positive drug tests, then he will have unsupervised visits with the child for those same periods of time. He'll continue those visits for the following 90 days. And as long as there's no positive drug tests, then he will roll into a standard possession order of the child, and mother's right to request drug testing will expire. If at any time those drug tests are positive, the visits will revert back to the supervised schedule. So, Ms. Medina, I'm giving you the power to make those decisions for your child. And upon his release, it's up to you to determine whether what you think is best for him. You know, I mean, at that point in time, you may have been in communication with him and decided that he's turned over a new leaf and that you're comfortable with this, but you have the option to say, no, I'm not comfortable with it, and I want to go through these steps.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I know that's a little complicated. I will post my docket entry, obviously, to Odyssey, if anybody needs to pull that up to look at it. Y'all can see it there. Does anybody have any questions?
No question, John.
No questions.
Okay. All right. I appreciate everybody. I'll sign an order when y'all get it to me, and y'all have a good rest of your afternoon. Ms. Medina, the best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, then, before we get started, my understanding that mother has executed a relinquishment, correct?
That's correct.
All right, then. Mr. Trout, how many witnesses you have today?
2, Your Honor.
Okay, and in the interest of time, let me just ask, with respect to mothers, well, that's not gonna help us because we've got to get testimony on father, so never mind, just forget my thought there. Okay, if you want to go ahead and call your first witness then.
Melissa Ponce, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Ponce, if you'll raise your right hand for me. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you'll give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Melissa, would you state your name for the record, please?
It's Melissa Ponce.
And Ms. Ponce, how are you employed?
I work for Texas Department of Family and Protective Services.
In what capacity do you work for them?
I'm an investigator.
Are you familiar with the case involving the child Whitney Ames?
Yes, sir.
And how are you familiar with that case?
I was the investigator on the case.
How did the department become involved in the case with this child?
Originally, the case was out of I believe it was Austin, Texas. It came in that Whitney had made some statements that she felt unsafe with her mother in the home, and she had to run away. So she was placed in a Georgia Behavioral Health Institution by law enforcement for her mental health.
And when was the case transferred up to you?
The case was transferred to me April the 9th
Okay.
of 2024.
Okay, thank you. And why was the case transferred up to the Amarillo area?
Because the mother was living up, decided that she was moving up here.
Okay. And when the case was transferred to you, what was going on?
Whitney, the child, was in the pavilion due to making threats of killing her mom and her sister.
Were there other allegations of violence in the home or threats of violence?
Yes, Whitney had made several statements apparently that she was going to kill her mom and her sister, I believe, in their sleep, and was also assaultive towards her mother.
Okay. During your investigation, who did you find out was the mother's? What was the mother's name, or what is the mother's
Her name is Desiree Ames.
Okay. And in your contact with her, did you discuss the allegations and stuff going on in the case?
Yes, I did.
And what was mom's outlook and statements made during the case?
Mom had been trying to seek help with regarding Whitney's mental health. She had been talking to a staff member at Texas Panhandle Centers to try to get her some help, either whether that be inpatient, outpatient treatment. She also attended one of the community where the community comes together to discuss like some different options. There were several options, but there was a waiting list for those options. And so mom felt like she had exhausted all her options in the community. She did not have any family members that could handle Whitney's behavior either.
At this time, was mom asking the department to take custody of Whitney?
Yes.
During your investigation, did mom tell you who Whitney's dad was?
She had stated that it was Trenton Ames.
Okay. And during your investigation, were you ever able to get in touch with him?
No, I was not. I spoke to, I believe, his half brother that lived in San Antonio, in the San Antonio area, and he no longer resided with his brother, and his brother did not know where any locating information for him.
Did you run any searches to try to find any other address or phone numbers for him?
Yes, sir. I ran an accurate search for him.
Okay. And did that turn up anything new?
No, it did not. I ended up mailing the removal information to the brother's address in hopes that there would be a forwarding address.
But nothing ever came of that?
No, sir. And
so during your time, your involvement in this case ended at the adversary hearing, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And between when you became involved and when the adversary finished, you had no contact with that?
That's correct.
And do you believe that based upon what mom and the child had disclosed to you throughout your investigation, it was in the best interest of the child for the department to take custody?
Yes, sir.
Where was the child when you finished your portion of the case? Where was the child?
She was in a residential treatment center in Houston, Texas.
And how was she doing there?
Initially, she was doing good. She did have one run-in. I guess she had I don't know if it was a verbal fight with a staff member, but there was nothing further. I mean, the staff intervened, and so my understanding is that she was doing okay there.
But when initially placed, she still had kind of some signs of aggression that we were dealing with, mom was dealing with.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And mom wanted the department to take custody because she had exhausted all her efforts.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Jackson, any questions?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Hill,
No questions.
Ms. Zavala.
No questions.
All right, and just, well, I'll wait and see if you cover it with the next witness. Let me ask this question. Ms. Ponce, she gave you the identity of the father. Did she ever discuss with you his status as either an alleged father, or had he been adjudicated by a court?
Just a second.
I just didn't know if you all had any discussion about that.
No, I mean, I don't see anything in my notes that we had discussed that.
Okay, all right, we'll check with, I'm sure his next witness will cover that. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, anybody have anything further for Ms. Ponce?
No, ma'am.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, any objections to her being excused and going on about her day?
No, ma'am.
No, no, ma'am.
No objection.
All right, then, Ms. Ponce, you're free to go. Thank you very much for logging in and for your time today.
Yes, ma'am.
Have a good one.
You too.
All right, you can call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor, and I'll be calling Alicia Walker, Your Honor, and Your Honor, just to kind of answer the court's question on that, there are prior orders in this case where dad was under duty support. So he has been adjudicated.
I saw his acknowledgement of paternity, and I just hadn't scrolled through far enough to see if he ultimately was adjudicated in that case.
Yes, ma'am.
But, okay, great. And that was an AG case on sport. So.
Correct, Your Honor. There's an order from December 6th of 2023 that says he's found to have a duty to support.
Yep. All right, then, Ms. Walker, if you will unmute and raise your right hand for me. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you'll give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Okay, all right, you may proceed.
Good morning, Ms. Walker. Would you state your name for the record, please?
Alicia Walker.
Ms. Walker, how are you employed?
I'm employed with St. Francis Ministries.
And are you the permanency specialist on the case involving Whitney Ames?
Yes.
And have you been since the beginning of the case?
Yes.
Ms. Walker, we'll talk about mom real quick. Did you receive the exhibits I sent out?
Yes, I did.
Okay, do you have those pulled up?
Yes.
Okay. Could you tell me, did the mother execute an affidavit of voluntary relinquishment on the 4th day of June 2024?
She did.
Have you had an opportunity to review that relinquishment?
Yes.
Did the mother sign the relinquishment?
Yes.
Were there 2 witnesses?
Yes.
Was it notarized?
Yes.
Has the department consented to being the designated managing conservator of the child?
Yes.
And was it filed with the court on September 11th of 2024?
Yes.
Are you asking the court today at the end of testimony to terminate the parental rights of the mother, Desiree Ames, as to the child, Whitney Ames, based solely upon her affidavit of voluntary relinquishment and waiving all other grounds?
Yes.
And do you believe that's in the best interest of the child?
I do.
Your Honor, I'd ask to admit exhibit number 1 is the affidavit of voluntary relinquishment that Ms. Walker just testified to.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
And Judge, you're muted if you were speaking.
Sorry, Petitioner's Exhibit 1 will be admitted.
Thank you, Honey. Ms. Walker, as to Dad, Trenton Ames, have you had contact with him?
Yes.
When's the last time you had contact with him?
The last time was in March of this year
Okay. And how were you able to get in touch with him?
through Facebook.
Okay. Have you ever had any in-person or phone calls with him?
Not in person, but I have had a few phone calls with him.
Okay. And your last communication with him, you said it was through Facebook with Messenger?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your discussions with him at that time?
I was telling him that if he wants to talk to Whitney again, he's gonna have to start working services. And he replied back saying that he really wants to talk to Whitney, and that his phone, because his phone had not been working, so that's why I was talking to him on Facebook. He said he got a new phone, and I asked him if he could provide me with his phone number and an address because I currently don't know where he lives anymore. And he read my message and never responded.
At that point, how long had it been since he had communication with Whitney?
I don't believe he's had communication with her since January of this year.
How often were they having any visits or communication?
They were having phone calls with Whitney's therapist every other week.
Okay. And were those going okay at that time?
They were.
Okay. What happened in January that they stopped?
Since he hasn't worked any services, the judge had ordered that he can't have any calls with Whitney anymore until he begins working services.
And have you sent him a family plan of service?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell me, just for the record, what is family plans of service?
It's court-ordered services that parents have to complete in order to mitigate the reasons for removal.
Okay. And were those generated for this case?
Yes.
What services was Dad required to work?
He was having to do individual therapy, family therapy with Whitney, drug screens, OSAR, and we were going to have him do BIP due to his previous domestic violence, but the judge had previously said to wait to do BIP until he starts working his other services.
And you generated a family plan of service,
Yes.
and it was filed with the court.
Yes.
Can you look at exhibit number 2 for me?
Yeah.
Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
That is the family plan for Trenton.
Is this an accurate copy of the family plan that you drafted?
Yes.
Have you been able to review it?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any changes been made to this copy?
On this copy, it didn't have the drug screens on there, but so that those are added now.
Okay. But this is the original family plan that you drafted.
Yes.
Okay. And was it filed with the court on May 22nd of 2024?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd ask to admit exhibit number 2 is the family plan of service that Ms. Walker just testified to.
Objection.
Any objection?
No
No.
objection?
All right, Petitioner's Exhibit 2 will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Walker, when the case, how long did it take you to find Trenton Ames?
Like communication or his actual address?
Well, communication
It wasn't until May 25th
of last year.
of 2024. Yes.
Okay. And how often did you have communication with him?
I tried to contact him every month.
Okay. Were you able to do that?
Sometimes I was, sometimes I wasn't.
Did Dad ever tell you where he was or his address or where he is living?
In the beginning, he didn't want to because he didn't really feel like it was necessary because he kept saying he was going to have to go to rehab. And then he finally did provide me with an address.
And we tried to get him served at that address and was unable to.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Did Dad ever ask for any in-person visits
With Whitney?
with Whitney?
No.
Did he ever start setting up his services?
No,
Okay. Did you stated that he was required to, let me back up real quick. These service plans, exhibit number 2, were they made in order of the court?
yes,
And so that was ordered, you said, to do individual counseling. Did he ever set that up?
no,
Did he ever attempt to set it up?
no,
Did he drug screen for you ever?
no, he didn't.
Did he attempt any type of drug rehab or anything throughout the case?
No,
You stated that they were doing some family therapy, is that correct?
yes,
But that has not been going on lately, correct?
correct.
Did he ever fully complete that?
No.
What other service was Dad required to do that he has not completed?
He was supposed to do an OSAR, but they reached out to me and said he doesn't qualify for one since he doesn't have any reported use since 2022. And since I haven't been able to drug screen for him, I don't know if one would have been necessary or not.
Did he keep you in touch of when he moved around and what his new addresses were?
No,
Do you currently know where he lives?
I don't.
Have you or anybody from St. Francis, a support worker down in that area, have they been able to view and look at his home to see if it would be appropriate?
No,
Did Dad ever ask for Whitney to come home?
he did say he wanted to have Whitney back.
Okay. When was that?
The last time, I don't have an exact date, I'm sorry. He said it basically the whole time I talked to him, but he kept telling me that he didn't have time to work services.
Did you explain to him the need to work to services in order to transition Whitney back to the home?
Yes, I did, and also his LPS worker did.
And he did not take advantage of those services, correct?
Correct.
Is the department today asking to terminate the parental rights of Trent Ames as to Whitney Ames based upon his failure to work services throughout this case?
Yes,
And do you believe that is in the best interest of the child?
I do.
How is Whitney doing at this time?
She's doing pretty good. She still has communication with her Aunt Chelsea on a regular basis, and Chelsea's actually planning on visiting her sometime in May because her birthday's in May, so it'll be a little birthday trip. So she's looking forward to that.
Is this a family member that could be a possible placement for her?
Yes,
Okay, is that being looked into?
yes. Chelsea's just trying to find a place of her own right now.
Okay. So we haven't started any type of home study or anything on her?
Right.
Okay. And when you say trying to find a place of her own, where does she live? Who does she live with right now?
She lives in Dallas living with a friend.
Okay. But is she planning on staying in the Dallas area, just looking for our own apartment or house?
Yes.
And does their contact, is it seem to be good for the child?
Yes.
Okay, and she enjoys and looks forward to that contact?
She does, yeah.
Is the aunt, has she expressed any interest in if she gets a place of her own, possibly adopting or being long-term care for Whitney?
Yes, she has.
And that is the goal at this time, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And again, you believe that terminating mother's rights based on her voluntary relinquishment and termination of the dad's rights based upon his failure to work services would be in the best interest of the child?
Yes, I do.
And is that what you're asking the court to do today?
Yes.
And to grant permanent managing conservatorship to the department?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Jackson, any questions?
Just briefly, Your Honor. Ma'am, Desiree had signed off on her voluntary relinquishment on June the 4th of 2024. Since that time, have you had any further contact with her?
No, I haven't.
Okay. All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Hill,
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Ball.
Ms. Walker, I understand that Whitney will be getting a new caseworker soon. Is that right?
Yes, unfortunately.
One of the questions she asked me is whether she could still keep talking to you. She really loves you.
Oh,
Do you know who's going to be her new caseworker?
yes. Let me pull it up. Sorry, I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
That's okay. Just when you get a chance, it doesn't have to be done right now. If you could
Okay.
give me that information, Whitney has expressed to me the name of somebody she might want some contact with, but I can just email that information to the new caseworker when I get that.
Okay.
I think that was it for me. I'll pass witness.
All right, Mr. Trout, anything further of this witness?
Nothing further of this witness, Your Honor.
All right, does the department rest, or you have any further witnesses?
Just for the record, Your Honor, Dad was, were never able to find him to get him served after multiple attempts. He was published on, for service in January 29th of 2025. Other than that, the department would rest, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Jackson, anything to present today?
No witnesses, Your Honor. We rest.
All right, Mr. Hill?
Rest, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Zavala.
No witnesses, I rest.
Okay, Ms. Zavala, do you have a recommendation today?
I do, Your Honor. I have been able to visit with Whitney. She seems to be doing pretty well. The contact with Aunt Chelsea is very helpful. I do believe that it is in Whitney's best interest that the parental rights be terminated at this time. Whitney understands that that's going to be happening today. She also understands that that's a necessary first step if we're going to be looking at adoption in the future.
Okay. All right, and CASA.
Thank you. I also have talked to Whitney recently and she is doing good, as everybody's voiced. I asked her if there's anything she wanted me to tell the judge, and she said she is fine. If her dad's rights are terminated, she understands that that needs to happen, and same as the mom. But she wants us to look into Aunt Chelsea. If not Aunt Chelsea, there's a grandma. I think maternal grandma she wants us to look into, but if not, if neither of those work out, she's fine getting adopted.
Okay.
But she's doing good. She's doing good. We have no concerns. But we are in agreement, continue current placement, terminate parental rights, and PMC to the department.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rowland. And as always, thanks to CASA for your service in this case. All right, then, at this time, I do find by clear and convincing evidence that it is in the best interest of the child, Whitney Ames, to terminate the parental rights between the child and her mother, Desiree Ames, based on her voluntary affidavit of relinquishment of parental rights under Texas Family Code 161.001, subsection B1K, and the best interest of the child under Texas Family Code 161.001, subsection B2. Likewise, I find by clear and convincing evidence it's in the best interest of the child, Whitney Ames, to terminate the parental rights between the child and her father, Trenton Ames, based on Texas Family Code 161.001, subsection B, 1, the O grounds, and the best interest of the child under 161.001, subsection B2. At this time, I will appoint the Department of Family and Protective Services as the permanent managing conservator of the child, and I'll dismiss all court-appointed attorneys after the de novo and appellate timeframes expire, with the exception of the child's attorney, guardian ad litem. Does CASA wish to remain in the case?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. All right. Counsel, as always, do be advised that your de novo timeframe does begin to run since I've rendered an open court, And if you're instructed to file a notice of appeal, please do not do so until a final order has been signed and adopted by the referring court. For those of you still involved, we'll be back for a review hearing on Whitney's case in June, on June 26th of 2025. And that will be on a 9 o'clock docket.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I appreciate everybody. Thank you very much. We'll just be in recess until we take up our 1:30 case. So I will see some of you, I think, back then. And everybody else is free to go.
Yes,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank
Your Honor.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia.
Melinda Powell for the Department of St. Francis Permanency Specialist today is Jalissa Bird.
Stacy Zabala on behalf of Zach.
Okay, then, Ms. Bird, if you want to give us an update.
Yes. So Zach is still in the same placement. He's doing really well. I just recently talked to him. He was in a good mood. He's eating, sleeping well. We did talk about a plan for the future as far as, what he's wanting. He was talking about dating and just, typical things his age. We did talk about the friend, Miss Kiara Taylor, who was getting licensed. That is his primary goal, to be able to visit with her or live with her. She is working on getting licensed. She talked about, keeping the contact with Miss Burks. Zach is still reporting the same thing as far as he does want contact with Miss Burks. He does miss her, but he does not want to return to her home. We also talked about looking into a foster home instead of him being in the RTC that he's in currently. So he's at least being more open to things and more clear of what he wants for his future.
So
And
this,
oh, sorry.
okay, I was thinking I'd read this Aunt Kyra. Is she truly an aunt?
No, this is just really a friend. He met her at a RTC. She was a staff there, and he would go with her and her son to sporting events and different things. And he's really built upon with her and talks to her and her son probably every day.
So okay, so is she, I'm thinking what I read, she's getting licensed to adopt, and
Yes. And since she is not considered fictive kin, we weren't able to place him with her until she gets licensed.
but are we still really looking hard at that?
Yes. She did have her mother got really sick around Christmas time. So it kind of postponed her home study. But she is starting that back up. I've talked to her agency as well. So she is still motivated, and Zach's pretty motivated. And just for a fallback plan, we have talked about a foster home instead of, he likes the RTC, but it's not ideal for our kiddos, especially with his age.
Okay. Well, the age-old thing is it better to not move and then wait this other out and try to just make the one move, or is it better to get him out of the RT and somewhere else in the interim? I mean,
Right. And
I wouldn't really want, this close to the end of the school year, I wouldn't be in favor of doing any of that until summertime. And then he doesn't have to necessarily change schools for several months, so that buys us a little more time. So do we have any idea what kind of time frame we're looking at for her to get licensed?
my understanding was she just had her home study, but we did talk about looking at the summertime just because he is doing so well in school at the RTC, and they're pretty much finishing up in the next month or so. So I'm hoping by the summertime she does have her home study completed, and then if for some reason that just does not work out, then we hope to find a foster home. So our placement team is looking just in case.
Well, I understand you guys can't place because you're not fictive kin, but anybody know of anything that stops me from placing him there? If, I mean, if we've got a home study pretty much in the works and we've got background checks and we, you know,
Judge, I'm sure it's probably the same. The only problem is if there's an unauthorized placement, she's not going to get the financial support that she would get if it's an authorized placement. And
sure.
Venus or Jalissa could correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't imagine that's changed in the time I've not been doing this.
I don't think it has changed. I think that's exactly right. And but I don't know whether she's willing to look at that for a few months. Let him finish school and then maybe do the placement, but you know, if she's not licensed yet, I don't know, just tossing it out as an idea.
I know that he, of course, would be in favor of that, you know, that is his focus. He does seem to have a realistic view of this is going to take a little bit of time too. So if it is much more helpful for her to be able to get that support, I do want to go back and hit on one thing. I knew she was in the process of getting licensed. I just need to double check my records. I mean, right now, we still have parental rights intact for Serena, correct? So we're not in an adoption type stance, and he does still want a relationship with Serena and wants, you know, so one of my questions was, are we looking at just a long-term kind of PMC option? Does that speed up any of the licensing if we're not looking at adoption? Or has anyone talked about Serena and is she willing to potentially relinquish for an adoption to happen? So it just seems like there's a few steps we got to figure out too in terms of where we're going for the long-term goal.
Yeah, and I mean, he's 16. You know, and he'll be 17 in September. So, you know, is this, I mean, is adoption really, is that really on the table, or is this just would this be just a really good place for him to be and start preparing for independent living and adult life? And, you know, they can certainly remain as support for him, or even if she gets licensed, then extended care. I mean, I think those things need to be talked about with her. And, you know, what are the realistic goals at this child's age? You know, so and obviously Miss Burks has got to be looped into that. So I'm seeing a meeting in your all's future. So I think the sooner, honestly, I think the sooner that we can have some meeting of the minds about that. Okay, she's logging in right now. The sooner we can have some meeting of the minds about all of that, then the better. So, Mr. Jackson, you want to put you in a breakout room with her real quickly?
If you don't mind, please.
Okay. All right. Mr. Jackson, have you had opportunity then to visit with Ms. Burks?
Yes, ma'am, I have, and I kind of explained to her in a nutshell what was discussed in court this morning, and that the child is doing really well and wants to remain with this aunt, and they're kind of motivated about a possible adoption. And I don't think that she's necessarily opposed. I told her that she might want an opportunity to talk with him to say, look, this is what you want. I'm not opposed to doing that. I just she doesn't want him to feel like she's just writing him off. And I completely understand that. And so she's doing it for him. And so to the extent that they can put Miss Zavala or Miss Bird, y'all are more than welcome to talk to Serena. I don't represent her. And I told her that if she needed to talk to me about anything, she could certainly call me at any time. But she understands the only way to make that happen is for her to relinquish her rights. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay. Well, I think the next logical step is to have whatever y'all call it. Used to be family team meeting, whatever we call it nowadays. The there's so many different names of meetings, I can't keep them all straight, so.
Yeah.
But everybody knows what I'm talking about, so I think we need to get everybody together, the sooner the better, and talk about what's the long-term goal here, and what does that look like, and who really, you know, where do we want to head with this?
And I don't know that I'm clear on it anymore, but there's some benefits to the child about being adopted into this, and I wanted them to make that clear to her, what the benefits to the child are.
Sure. Okay. All right, well, that's what I think's next. I mean, we can't solve it sitting here right here today. We don't have the child, we get, you know, but I think we need to just get everybody together and talk about what everybody really wants out of this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Joel, I appreciate your assistance today.
Yeah. Happy to be here.
All right, then, anybody have anything further?
Nothing for me.
Okay. All right, then I will continue the department as permanent managing conservator. And I will continue his current placement. I really would like for us to have that meeting before we start talking about moving him, doing an interim move. So let's see if we can't get something together before the end of the school year for sure. Okay, our next hearing date is scheduled for September 25th of 2025. That's on a 9 o'clock docket. Mr. Jackson, we're going to remove you as her, make sure you're out of the system as her attorney of record unless we hear otherwise.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you all so much.
You bet. I'll see you at 11:30.
Okay.
Thank you.
In the interest of Anaya and Kiara Moreno, we're here for a permanency hearing. We are conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming, and Ms. Goodman's making our record this morning. Okay, we'll go ahead and take announcements.
Melinda Powell for the department. The St. Francis Permanency Specialist today is Jennifer Campos.
Jeff Hill on behalf of the children, standing in for Brooks Barfield. I'm ready.
Okay. And thank you again, Mr. Hill, for helping us out this morning.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then Ms. Campos, if you want to give us an update, I appreciate it.
Both girls are doing very well. Kiara has started school. She's in kindergarten at Russell Elementary in Brownsville. They've adjusted to being in their adoptive home. Anaya's doing very well. She's getting all of her medical needs taken care of. There were some bumps in that, but they got it taken care of just because they transitioned from our Medicaid to adoptive Medicaid. So there was just kind of some, you know, updates that they needed. But other than that, the girls are doing really well. They will be adopted on April 30th.
That's what we want to hear. Okay. What county are they have that filed in?
Cameron County.
Okay. All right. Okay, sounds excellent. Mr. Hill, any concerns?
Judge, no, I was provided some information from Mr. Barfield's office, and yeah, they believe everything is going well.
Terrific. Okay. All right, then I will continue the department as permanent managing conservator, and I will continue the children's current placements or placement. And then we'll make a note of that date, but in case something happens, we are set for a review hearing on September 25th of 2025. That'll be on a 9 o'clock docket, but it sounds like we'll be taking that off. So
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
great. All right, Ms. Campos, when you have contact, please thank the adopted family and and tell him how much we appreciate him.
I sure will. Thank you
Okay,
guys so much.
all right, thanks a million.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
In the interest of King Tyrell Hughes, we're here on a review hearing. We're conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming, and Ms. Goodman is making our record this morning. All right, we'll take announcements.
Melinda Powell for the department. The St. Francis Permanency Specialist today is Heidi Elliott.
T.D. Hammonds for King Tyrell Hughes, ready to proceed, Judge.
Okay. Ms. Elliott, if you want to give us the update, that would be.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. King, he's doing amazing. He's running around, typical little boy, still likes to climb. He's saying a few more words. His placement or his child placement agency, Rural for Children, has referred him for ECI services. And she's supposed to send me an update on that when those services are to begin. He's placed with his biological siblings and they have such a strong bond. And we're currently waiting on the adoption date. I've sent everything in. I'm just waiting to hear back. And he's caught up on everything.
Okay. Excellent. So we're hoping pretty soon.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Okay.
Judge, I think so. I talked to the parents last night, and yeah, I don't know if you have notes in your file, but these two folks have 3 of the older siblings, and then if you remember, there's a 4th one that we're dealing with, Deshane, that is set for April 22nd. And yeah, Daniel sent out a message yesterday. We might be able to just finalize Deshane on the 22nd because they've also done relinquishments on him, I believe. So
well, the mother has, the father hasn't signed his relinquishment yet.
Do you realize I think he's out in jail right now?
No, sir. His mom had bonded him out.
Okay. I think the foster family, if it works out, you know, they'd like to just adopt Deshane and King Tyrell on the same day.
Yeah.
So if we can get all the timing done. But anyway, yeah, everything's going fine. These people are great people. You know, they've really stepped up. So.
Okay. They certainly have. All right, well, I will continue the department as permanent managing conservator, and I will continue his placement. And we will have our next review hearing on September 25th of 2025. That'll be on a 9 o'clock docket. So if they choose to proceed with both kids on this at the same time, we probably will have that review hearing.
Okay.
So we'll just see what they decide.
That's fine. And of course, isn't it mid-October that they do that adoption day down in Randall?
It's always in November.
Mm-hmm.
National Adoption Day is in November. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I could see them kind of looking toward that, you know, as a potential day. So.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you all, and I'll see you back in September if that's what we need to do.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.